What do you call birds that stick together? Velcros. Right, second video here for the 2019 PPEs for the 2020 exam group. This video will focus on section B. Always worth highlighting section B, you can answer all questions in this section. So what are we confronted with? We are confronted with a food web question, quite a common question on the living world section of your paper 1. So let's have a little look. What's our first question? Using figure 6, which one of the following statements is true? You only have to shade one circle. If you shade 2, you are wrong. If you shade 0, you are definitely going to be wrong. So if you're not sure, always guess. So let's have a little look. Do sparrowhawks, let's highlight sparrowhawk, there they are. Do they eat plants? Well, no, because there's no arrow directly from plants to sparrowhawks. Do voles, where are the voles to? Let's change colours, have orange. There's the vole. Do they eat moles? No, they do not. Although moles are secondary consumers and voles are primary consumers, there is no direct link between them. Do moles eat beetles? There's moles, there are beetles. Yes, it would appear they do, as the arrow directly from beetles to moles is your clue. Final one, just to check, it's always worth just checking. Do badgers, there they are, eat small birds? The answer is no, they are both secondary consumers, and we definitely won't be using the purple highlighter again. Question 2.2 is a suggest question. That means come up with something. What would happen, so hypothetically, in the food web shown if foxes became extinct? It's 2 marks, which always means a point and a so what. On food web questions, my advice to you is always to look up, down, left and right. Can you extend your point? So if we highlight this time in a colour that will actually work for the highlighting, red, foxes there right at the top of the food chain, tertiary consumers. So let's keep it simple. What will the effect be if foxes go extinct? Well, I can tell you the effect will be on rabbits. It could be argued to be a positive effect on rabbits on the grounds that there are less foxes or no foxes, so the rabbit predators have decreased, so the amount of rabbits will increase because they're not eating as much. That'll get you 1 mark. Your second mark, you've got to extend it on. So let's have a little look straight down. Well, your plants could arguably be negatively affected by this because rabbits will eat more of the plants. Let's try and extend again. Well, who else or what else will be affected? Well, we could say the caterpillar would be negatively affected. And the reason why is if there are more rabbits, more plants are eaten, so there is less food available for the caterpillar. So the caterpillar numbers are likely to decrease. 2 marks, definitely. Question 2.3, a little 1 mark question, which is simply state, which means give, one role of decomposers in an ecosystem. Decomposers break down organic matter and allow it to be recycled by plants. That is the role of decomposers. Nice easy one. Again, if you don't know what a decomposer is, hopefully you can work it out from simply the word decomposer. Key thing there is you are going to get some 1 mark questions, which are definitions. Learn your definitions. Where are we on to next? Some more short questions here. Let's have a little read of what's going on here. Study figure 7, a graph showing the biomass at different levels of a food chain. Biomass is essentially the energy contained within a food chain. So in terms of the weight of biomass, it actually tells you their biomass is the total quantity or weight of organisms in a given area. Let's have a little look at what we've got here. Question 2.4, calculate. Every time you see calculate, you may use a calculator. The percentage loss in biomass between primary and secondary consumer levels. Shade 1 circle only. So what we'd have to do here, we'd have to find the primary consumer figure. There it is, it's 12,000, and the secondary consumer level is 300. So all we have to do is work out what is the percentage change. So from 12,000 to 300, we'll do this without a calculator for the time being. What we would have to do is to consider that 12,000 is our starting number, and we just simply have to work out how many times of a decrease this has been all the way down to 300. So easiest way to do this, if you did have a calculator, is to go 12,000 divided by 100. That would give you 1% of that figure, and then simply take that 1% figure and divide it through the 300. So 1% of 12,000 is 120. How many 120s go into 300? So 300 divided by 120 would give you a figure of 2.5 times. As a result, the decrease has been 97.5%. Now then, if you are not sure on this question, and you're not sure on percentages, please come and ask me. I will show you how to do them with a different example. If you aren't sure though, you take a pot shot guess, because you've got a fairly good chance of getting it right. The figure's gone from 12,000 to 300. There are only two feasible answers there. Question 2.5. Give two reasons, so not one, not three, two, why the biomass changes so it's not the same between each level in this food chain. Tricky question, it's really a biology question, but the exam board would accept all of these answers. The most commonly given answers were the first two actually, loss of energy through breathing or respiration and loss of energy through movement. However, all of these answers would have been accepted. So if you're not sure, again, always have a go here, always have a go. Another figure, they do like a figure in this exam. Figure 8, a diagram showing the structure of the tropical rainforest. Just at this point, I will just tell you that the paper 3 paper in 2019 was tropical rainforest based. As a result, in 2020, we can assume there are going to be quite a number of tropical rainforest questions appearing on your paper 1. So it is something to prioritise in your revision. So figure 8, diagram showing the structure of tropical rainforest. Using figure 8, okay, make sure you use the figure. Which part of the rainforest matches this following description? And there's your description. An almost continuous layer of branches and leaves between 15 and 30 meters high. Well, there's 15 meters highlighted. There's 30 meters highlighted. What layer are we looking at? Well, the emergent layer is above that. The upper canopy appears to fit. The lower canopy is below it. The understory is below it. So it has to therefore be the upper canopy. Easy 1 mark. Again, using figure 8, so make sure we use the figure. Describe, which means say what you see. Just one characteristic. Characteristic means feature, if you like, of the base of the taller trees. So let's find the taller trees. There's one there, and there's one there. Oops, that was terrible highlighting. What do you realise about those trees that are highlighted there? Well, they're the base of them appears to be wider, so a wide base would be your simple 1 mark. Some of you may know there are buttress roots, that would also have been accepted. Question 2.8, give one, not two, not three, give one effect, or means impact, of deforestation, cutting down trees, on the soils of the rainforest. This question was incredibly poorly answered because candidates did not highlight the word soils. So if deforestation occurs, what's the impact on the soil? The most common impact written was soil erosion, but make sure we clarify it. Say something along the lines of less interception, so more soil erosion, or roots do not bind the soil together anymore, so more likely to be washed away. Make sure you do actually put the detail in to tell me what the effect will be. Okay then. First time the exam board has done one of these questions, so we have a choice of either figure 9 or figure 10. Really important, you have studied figure 9. You have studied hot deserts. You will have done the Mojave Desert as your case study. You have not studied figure 10, polar bears, etc. You have not done cold environments. So if you ever get this choice, using either figure 9 or figure 10, or alternatively if it gives you the choice of hot desert, cold environments, you must go for the hot desert environment because you actually have some specifics. So we've got to make sure we use figure 9. Let's have a little look. Plants and animals, so both adapt, which means to change, to survive, absolutely crucial, we'll come back to that in a minute, in a hostile environment. What we have to do is explain this statement, but crucially, if you ever get an adaptation question, your argument must actually link to the environment. The adaptation must actually be explained by the environment they are in. So really important that both of your appeals actually tell me about the hot desert and what the animal has done to adapt to it. You can't simply start from the adaptation. You've got to tell me why the adaptation has been made. Explain the statements and explain questions so you know it's going to be a give reasons why, a so what question. You will use figure 9 and your own understanding. Remember, a little bit of exam advice here. You ever see the word your own understanding, what it means is absolutely crucially to try and drop a case study or an example in. Now, you've got to tick the box. I couldn't find the tick again on PowerPoint, so that isn't a tick, but there you go. Your eyes will be drawn to the 6 markers. This is the reason you're doing those weekly homeworks, because you'll see 6 marks and you'll go, I need 2 peels. The exam board are being very nice here. They're telling you to use plants and animals, quite literally telling you 1 peel about plants, 1 peel about animals. Use the figure, which we're going to do, evidence your ideas with a case study.
Okay then, let's have a little look at this 6 marker. Let's look at a model answer for it. Remember, we've got to use the figure. So what we've got here, 2 ways to answer this really. I mean, you could say that in the figure you see the climatic conditions, the hostile environment, if you like. It's probably a little bit more difficult to get the marks that way. So what we've done here in our 2 peels is to use the more obvious. Look, you can see the cactus, you can see the camels in the image. Our problem is that our case study is not one that has cactuses or camels in. Obviously, you've got the Joshua tree and a whole range of different animals, but that's absolutely fine because the adaptations are very similar. So this is how you can twist a figure into what you want it to be. In the figure, I see a cacti, which has similar adaptations to the Joshua tree. That means you've used the figure, and then you can use your actual example, which is the Joshua tree, to explain it. Highlighted in yellow there is the link to the hostile environment, less than 200 millimeters a year of rainfall, and the explanation of the adaptation, channeling rainwater directly to its roots. This means that the limited water can be taken in by osmosis before evaporation. What you've then done is you've identified what the hostile environment is, you've identified what the adaptation achieves, and therefore you can link to survival. Get the highlighter out, you can link to survival there. If you read through that explanation, you can see it's fully explained. We've used the proper terms as osmosis, evaporation, photosynthesis. Now at this stage you'd be on 3 out of 6, but we've got to do the animals as well. So animals such as the camel and the vulture, so there's our use of the figure with the camel, but our actual example is the vulture, have also adapted to the hostile environment that can reach 50 degrees during the day. There's our hostile environment signposted for the examiner. Explain the vulture there, the blue there, what the vulture has actually done to adapt. As the high temperatures evaporate, again the use of the keyword, the urine, and thus cool the vultures down. They don't perspire, it therefore means that they don't have to drink as often, which obviously then links to that 50 degrees during the day because they don't dehydrate. If you look right on the end, the last little paragraph there, you can see that I've also identified the camel there achieving the same aim of drinking less by storing fat. A common error in the marking was people saying that camels store water. Actually, they store fat there, and the concept is that that fat can therefore be released and utilised by the camel over a longer period of time. It therefore means they don't have to drink as often. Hopefully that makes sense. If you watch this whole slide through, a bonus joke for you will appear in a moment.
Okay, question 2.10, the last part of section B, is of course the 9 marker. I know your eyes will be drawn to the 9 marker, so we know how to structure them, but let's make sure we understand what the question's asking us. So there it is. Big question there. To what extent is human activity the cause of desertification in areas on the fringes of hot deserts? Now, before we go into breaking the question down, the fringes of hot deserts, you have got to make sure you highlight these keywords, because if you miss the word fringes here, you are going to set yourself up for a fail. So then here we go. To what extent? It's going to be a judgment question like all 9 markers. Human activity, that's stuff that's done by humans. The cause remember is the reason why something happens. Desertification, that's the spread of desert-like conditions in areas on the fringes of hot deserts, the edge of a hot desert, not the desert itself. Okay, the fringes, and your case study for that is the Sahel not the Mojave. Make sure you tick the box as well. 9 marker, you know your structure, it's always going to be a judgment. Your intro is going to answer the question and hopefully show a bit of balance as well at the top end. 2 Peelies, conclusion, and if provided, use the figure. The exam board here have been mean, they haven't given you a figure. This is a harder 9 marker than the one from section A. So here we go, let's break it down, let's go through our introduction. In my opinion, human activity is a major cause. So there you go, is a major cause. That's us answering the question of the spread of deserts or desertification. The yellow there is our answering of the question. Our very, very clever balance, which gets us 2 marks off the bat, is it's not the only factor. It's a balance that we're showing the exam board here. We're saying it is a major cause, but it's not the only factor. 2 marks for showing balance. So what have we got then? Let's go into our arguments. We've got a growing population in the Sahel region. Straight away, you've identified there's your human activity. There's our evidence. 3 times higher population in the last 50 years means more space is needed to grow crops like sweet potatoes. Lovely, lovely, lovely specific. Every time you mention the word crops, always give an example. Spinach is always a really, really good example to use because it is so widely grown. But in this case, there is a specific for sweet potatoes, or you could have said peanuts as well. This means that less trees intercept rainfall. Good. Link back to the question on the grounds that we've had to use more space to grow crops. It means we've had to cut down trees. More soil is eroded, less NPK in the soil. Desert-like conditions grow because trees cannot grow here again. It's the link back to the question. We are showing the exam board that we know that human activity has caused desertification. To what extent? Here comes our evaluation. However, the fact that the Sahel has such a long wet season of 3 months also shows physical factors are a cause. So without that 3-month wet season of heavy rain, you wouldn't actually get desert spreading. But link that with the human factor of cutting down trees and the 3-month wet season, it means that we've got that balance idea. We've also got the to what extent element considered by, that red highlight was a mistake. Oh, that's very clever. Look, the red highlight there goes above the blue one. Oh, that's brilliant. However, is your evaluation. It's that to what extent that we need. We then go into our second Peely. We could have done a physical cause here, but we are still showing balance even though we do a second human cause as long as we evaluate at the end of our Peely. So let's have a little look. Here's our point. Another human cause is rising temperatures. And you might go, well, that's not a human cause. Yes, it is, if you explain how. The burning of fossil fuels. There's our specific, a classic 0.85 since 1885. Those of you I've taught since year 9, I've banged on about this figure constantly. It's because I know it's going to come up in the exam. We do need to know that figure. The increase in temperatures has led to the increased baking of the soil in the Sahel, creating an impermeable surface during the wet season. This leads to soil erosion and the spread of desert-like conditions as NPK is washed away. So we've got baking of the soil there as a separate point to what we identified in the previous Peely regarding soil erosion. Link back to the question, this underlines the global human activity has caused desertification. Why that's such a lovely argument is to show that it's human activity on a global scale as opposed to just locally. But ready, there's your peel, point, evidence, explanation, link. Let's now do our evaluation. Let's use a colour that we know is actually going to highlight properly. Let's go for orange. That however word, there's your on the other hand, there's your evaluation. Let's take our argument and criticise it a little bit. Planting of trees, 7,000 kilometre Great Green Wall shows that human beings are also working to reduce global warming and the spread of deserts in the Sahel. What this shows, it's such a clever way of twisting the question, is that human activity can also reduce the cause of desertification on the grounds that we can manage it. Easy, simple conclusion then. Overall, it's a clear cause. I think we've proved that during our answer, but the increasing management means that they can also be the solution to the spread. 9 marks all day long. We've answered the question there. human beings are a clear cause. I like that word clear in there because it's that judgment. They are a clear cause. You could have said they're a substantial cause, they're a major cause, but you're making sure to the examiner you are answering the question, you're making a judgment. We've also got that balance again there at the end. In the previous video, I said as you write your 9 marker, you'll kind of like build something to add to your introduction. That's where you stick it in there in the conclusion. So there you go. In 20 minutes, there's your section B completed. Come and ask us down in H8 if there's anything you're not sure of, if you want me to go through desertification or using the figure.